We are live abi.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, dear friends, dear brothers and sisters. Good day, good evening, good afternoon, depending on the location. We had started reading and contemplating on the 24th letter, which is, in my opinion, really one of the essential treatises from Risale-i Nur Collection. Because this draws our attention to question why there are these changes going on in the universe, like atoms, larger molecules, and particles are just working instantaneously and all the time. And as a matter of fact, everything is changing, evolving, transforming. So what is the wisdom behind? Especially we know that these changes break our hearts. You know, we are affected by separation, by death itself. So how can we compromise these things with Allah being the most merciful, the most compassionate, the most wise, and the most loving? How can we just understand or reconcile these two things? Or at the face value, looks like these are conflicting each other, right? So how can we just reconcile Allah's mercy, love, and wisdom with death, non-existence, decline, and separation that we are observing? That's really a tough question, and I believe we are really questioning this these days or anytime. I would say we are just not aware of it because our spirits are suffering from these concepts. And Said Nursi is establishing a firm background here for us to understand and how it is relevant to the Quran's inscription to us. So we just started going over that, and I want to draw our attention to some terminologies I think important to understand this piece particularly, such as Said Nursi starts answering, talking about 5 signs, which shows the necessitating cause and reason. Maybe this is very close, and because of translation problems, I guess this may miss the meaning, because it was my question. Like, what do you mean? In Turkish, it is da'i ve muktazi, so necessitating cause and reason. I think this translation does not really correspond to da'i and muktazi, you know. Actually, I just pick it from the context where Said Nursi refers to 18th letter, actually the last part of 18th letter, and over there actually he defines what he means with da'i and muktazi. Actually, I see he means da'i and muktazi means intrinsic motivation, where the wording illet, cause or main cause, refers to, in my opinion, extrinsic motivation, but this one, da'i ve muktazi, means intrinsic motivation. Over there, to open these concepts, he gives an example of eating. For instance, why do we eat? Why do we eat fruit? Why do we eat delicious food, dishes? 2 things. Da'i and muktazi, intrinsic motivation for us to eat is the pleasure that we get out of it. But ultimately, the illet, the extrinsic motivation for us to eat, is to survive, you know, to survive our body, to live in this world. So I think I found this important to open this treatise, because this, I think, concentrates on mostly intrinsic motivation of what is happening in this universe. Otherwise, the illet, you know, extrinsic motivation explanation would be much shallower than what we hear here. I would love to hear your comments as well, but I wanted to mention this since Said Nursi refers to 18th letter, and I pulled this definition from 18th letter, you know. Okay, then we started with the first sign to just correspond to, to, I mean, to start with the explanation of changing universe and why it is doing so. Remember, there was this model, and we said that this model is paid in the first place, and this model's dress is cut or modified, depending on the will of the craftsman or the artist, and the model has no right to complain. So we were going over this, and we talk about that, and I will pick from here. I think that was the place where we had stopped. God forbid beings have no rights. Actually, let me turn to my speakers before I start reading, because I tried to summarize what's going on from the last week. Hüsamettin, actually, you were not here. Maybe let me ask Colin Hocam. I saw you. Colin Hocam, do you agree with what I summarized regarding last week? And do you want to say a few words before I move on?
No, assalamu alaikum. I think that your introduction was fine. There is a problem with the translation, I think. It's interesting, actually, because I'm actually retranslating this particular treatise right now. I started just before it was chosen. So there was a nice tawafuk there.
Oh, mashallah, that's good to hear.
So because I'm also trying to make it a bit more accessible, what you described, I think, I would think of in terms of reason and purpose. The reason for a particular order, if we're thinking in jurisprudence, a reason for an order, and then the purpose of the order. So rather than what is here now. So I think your intrinsic and extrinsic fits that.
Nice.
What is the reason we drink water? The reason is to quench our thirst. What's the purpose in order to survive? But these things often blend into, reason, purpose, cause, and all of these things that they're sometimes difficult to distinguish between.
Right. Hüsamettin, do you want to say, do you want to share before we move?
No, we can continue.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
God forbid beings have no rights before the necessarily existent one, nor can they claim them. What falls to them is, by offering thanks and praise, to carry out what is required by degree of existence he has given them. For the degrees of existence that are given are occurrences, and each requires a cause. Degrees that are not given are possibilities, and possibilities are non-existent as well as being infinite. As for instances for non-existence, they do not require a cause. For example, minerals cannot say, "Why weren't we plants?" They cannot complain. What falls to them is to offer thanks to their creator for having been given mineral existence. And plants may not complain, asking why they were not animals. What is due to them is to offer thanks, for they have received life as well as existence. As for animals, they cannot complain that they are not humans. What is incumbent on them, since they have been given precious substance of spirit in addition to life and existence, is to offer thanks, and so on. O querulous man, you did not remain non-existent. You were clothed in the bounty of existence. You tasted life. You neither remained inanimate nor were made an animal. You received the bounty of Islam. You did not remain in misguidance. You have experienced the bounties of good health and well-being. O ungrateful one, where did you win the right not to offer thanks in return for the degrees of existence Almighty God has given you as a pure bounty? How is that? Because exalted bounties that are contingencies and non-existent and that you do not deserve have not been given to you. You complain about Almighty God with meaningless greed. and are ungrateful for the bounties you have received. If a man rises to an elevated position, such as climbing to the top of a minaret, and finds a high station, and on every step receives a large bounty, then does not thank the one who gave him the bounties, and complainingly asks why he did not rise even higher, how wrong he would be. What an ungrateful denial of bounties, what a great foolishness it would be, as even a lunatic would understand. Yeah, I think I'm going to stop here. Colin Hocam, what do you want to say on this part? Colin Hocam, still with us?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Yeah. Again, the translation is a little problematic in parts. Here, where he says the degrees of existence that are given are occurrences, that's very vague.
Mm-hmm.
The original is vukuat, and I can't remember how I've translated it, but it's something like events and phenomena and realities, created events that make up something's existence, and they are, of course, created. Creation is important there. There is this idea of they are hadith, you know, they are actually things which exist, and they require a cause, whereas those things about which the mineral is complaining, they are non-existent because they are mumkin. So possibilities are non-existent, and there are millions and millions of possibilities. You know, those degrees which are not given are all non-existent. If they were deserved or required, they would have been created. I think this is what he's saying here. So it doesn't make sense for a stone to say, why am I not a stone? Because if that particular capacity had been such that it could have been a flower, it would have been a flower, if that makes sense. And I don't think that comes across just in, you know, this word occurrences here.
Yes. And what do you think? I find it's interesting logic here, like existence requires a cause. I try to think like this. I mean, if something happens to me, I can question, why did this happen to me? Or why did I deserve this? I can question, but I cannot question something which did not occur. I cannot question why I'm not this person, or why I am not at this position, since the position and the person I'm just looking forward, it's just possibility. I cannot ask hard question on what did not occur in the first place.
Well, I mean, there are lots of things which don't occur. I mean, there are billions of things which are not going to occur to me because that's not how I'm created. I'm created as I'm supposed to be created. And this is what he's saying. We shouldn't question this, because if there is a cause behind it, if someone has created you, they created you for a reason. And because the one who created us is absolutely knowledgeable and wise, he created us, he gave us these degrees of existence for a reason. And he didn't give you other degrees of existence also for a reason. So it's pointless to say, you know, if you're a rock, why am I not a flower? Because you're a rock. And your capacity was the capacity for being a rock and nothing more. And that requires a cause. You were given it, it was created, and you should be thankful that you're a rock and that you're not non-existent. You could have been non-existent.
Actually, can you elaborate on this a little bit? I find it very important. Since you said thanks, I mean, the cause is thanks. I mean, for my existence or for any existence, I mean, if the question is why I am created as a human, the straightforward answer is to give thanks. And I think here the reasoning flows in a way that it is taking me to the world of thanks, you know, instead of complaining.
Definitely. Someone with absolute attributes has, out of his grace and generosity, conferred on you a position in the universe. You have a position in the universe, and your capacity was for that. And that's a mystery, of course. What do we mean? Because, you know, before you exist, what are you? Well, you are a capacity, and that is dictated by the names themselves, because the names have to manifest in countless degrees, and every degree is itself it gives rise to a capacity for something to reflect that degree. So there has to be something which reflects those degrees which require minerality and animality and humanity and, you know, angelhood and all of these things. You know, it's a hierarchy, as we know. So
Right.
you're in the hierarchy. You have a place on the ladder or on the pyramid, or however you want to, you know, objectify this hierarchy. And this is wonderful because you exist and you are aware of your Lord. What better thing, you know, could you wish for? Do you want to be non-existent? You know, how ungrateful. And, you know, he says later on, if you elevate a man to the very highest position in life, the highest station in life, and he says, well, I want to go higher, why aren't you taking me higher? It means what he's doing. He's showing ingratitude for everything that he's been given. It's ridiculous when we think about it. Why do I not have 3 legs? Because I'm a human being, and human beings normally have 2 legs. Why would you have 3? Oh, because I want 3 legs. What is crazy?
Yeah, exactly. I got inspired by your explanation. So it seems like if I don't appreciate what I am given, most likely I neither deserve higher, you know, positions, nor, you know, these positions will definitely give harm, and it will just give me a position where I will be less thanking, and it will decrease my humanity in the first place.
You're right. And I think if you don't give thanks for what you have, you will lose it. In the next world, it will be taken away because you're not witnessing to it. You're not giving it importance. You're not attributing it to him. You're showing ingratitude, which is a kind of kufr, and therefore you'll be taken. You know, you'll lose it.
Yeah, perfect. And Erol Tahtakıran just shared the part that I mentioned from the last part of the 18th letter Said Nursi refers to, for those who are interested in looking at the piece. Thanks for sharing. Hüsamettin, I turn to you. Let's hear from you, your understanding from these parts.
Actually, I'm still synchronizing with the topic.
Okay.
Give me some more time to, you know, maybe 5-10 minutes to fully get, you know, aligned with the text.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Whenever you feel you're ready.
Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds good. Then I just, let me see. Yeah, I think it's good to maybe pay attention to this attributes or adjectives Said Nursi uses for man. Querulous man. Is this our nature, or how do we come to this state of being, you know, querulous and just, you know, questioning or asking for more, complaining? And of course, he just draws our attention that we should not be in this, you know, complaining state. Rather, you know, look at what we have and look at what kind of bounties we are given, including existence, tasting, life, not remaining inanimate, and so on. And in addition, having the Islam, bounty of Islam, as opposed to being in misguidance and so on. Colin Hocam, do you want to talk a little bit about our state of being querulous?
Yes, this is a word which is a very old word, and no one uses it. No one uses this word.
And I feel difficult to pronunciation.
If you're querulous, and I find it difficult to pronounce too, is you're complaining all the time, you know, and quibbling and you know, asking, why am I not like this? Why can I not have that? I think there is something in the human makeup which is a double-edged sword. It can be very, very useful, but it can also cut you and hurt you, and that's the whole point of a double-edged sword. And that is our understanding of difference, our ability to see that differences exist, and that someone is bigger and stronger than I am, or someone has more money than I do, someone writes better than I do, someone is more beautiful than I am, and why am I not like that? Now, the positive aspect of that is where there is difference, it can spur us on to work hard and to work. You know, if I don't have as much money as my next door neighbor, then I should go and work for it. If I can't write as well as you, I work, and instead of belittling you, learn from you, so that I can write too. And this comparisons are necessary, but there's also an English phrase: comparisons are odious. And if we think back to Iblis, the first person to make a very negative comparison was Iblis, saying, I am better than Adam because I was created from fire and he was created from clay. So in our nafs, there is something which has an affinity with the Iblis, because we have a tendency to make negative comparisons. Comparisons should be very positive. They should spur us on to compete, this musabaqa, this very positive musabaqa, not negative. But we don't, because our nafs is lazy, my neighbor has a new Porsche. Why don't I have a Porsche? We need to get a Porsche.
I deserve more than I deserve more.
Yeah, I deserve more. Why does he? What did he do? Well, his father was rich. My father wasn't rich. Why was I born to a poor father? All of these things, and this is kufr, actually. It's kufr. It's a kind of kufr, kufran and ni'mat. What we have, we don't give thanks for. What we don't have, we covet, we try to somehow get it, and we don't want our neighbor to have it. We can't bear to see our neighbor have a big house or a bigger car, or more money or more children or more fame. So this is all about ingratitude, I think.
Yeah, that would be the second adjective he uses, ungrateful one, in the coming paragraph. I think you touched a very great point, which is because of the nefis, as you say, and maybe we can say this mechanism of tekebbür that we have seen from Shaitan, just seeing himself different in a positive sense than human beings. So, and this is similar in our nefs. Like, I have a side which claims that, I'm superior, in a way. So this assumption of superiority, I think we can see around. I mean, firstly within myself, then I can see within close, let's say, kinship, and in society, smaller or larger, we can observe this feeling of superiority, and how this brings us to the state of being complaining.
I think every one of us in his or her nafs, in that lower compartment of the nafs, thinks they are a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. This kanzun makhfi that we always predicate of Allah. Well, we are reflections of Allah, and I think that the nafs, when it is in this negative situation, thinks that it is a hidden treasure, and that everyone should, be thrilled to know him or her, and I've got so much to give, so many talents, and I'm so wonderful, and I'm so good, and all of these things. This takabbur, there is a kind of holy or sacred takabbur that Allah has, and we reflect it, but we reflect it often in a very, very bad way, and it comes across as arrogance.
And I can use your words, borrow your words here. Maybe we are just trying to own them instead of borrowing them or reflecting them.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so nice.
Harun abi, can I just actually the way this part actually was framed, was really nice, and it reminded me one thing. Uh, in social psychology, actually, which is looking at mankind as self-sufficient and self-reliant, not from our own framework, but what they say, this comparison thing is more or less is is very intrinsic to men's existence in the social life. And I'm not going to go deep, but and to explain what they say, but what is relevant here, they say it in the very core of it is the self-esteem that every single self wants to have on them. For example, if somebody sees someone better in one way or the other, let's say in maths, in swimming, in whatever the the comparison criteria in there, if he finds himself not very good compared to the others, then he is actually looking for other ways to show himself better. So just at the end, he wants to find a higher self-esteem, one way or the other, compared to others. So again, when Kulin Hocam said Allah's self takabbur, or how we can frame here, I don't know, but he's self-reliant, he is fully independent, he doesn't actually cared, he is caring for everyone. And that's why that takabbur actually fits very well to Allah. But when we look at ourselves, the esteem that arises out of comparison to other people is an imaginary thing. I mean, it doesn't exist. It just arises, or it just happens when we actually are put into that context. For example, in a village environment, most of the things that we are talking here in the cities, they are nonsense. I mean, they don't mean anything. And for them, these things that people actually fight with each other in a city, in a city settings, let's say, I mean, they wouldn't care. And so you see, so they don't really exist in reality. But unfortunately, as we human beings, we are so much stuck in the imaginary realities for ours.
Exactly.
So we actually really care about these things, and we actually give so much more, a lot of importance these things, like how we do our own nafs.
Thank you, Hüsamettin. That's a great contribution. I think I'm going to get into the next part, which is attributing ungratefulness to us. Oh, Kulin Hocam, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just fascinated by Husamuddin's making the distinction between urban and rural. I think, people in villages would have a very different understanding of things, to people in urban conurbations and cities, big cities, metropolis. And I'm wondering whether that's reflected in, this is a bit of a digression, so I don't expect to carry it forward. I think it's reflected in fiqh as well. Because usually in cities, I know this in Anatolia anyway, it's Hanafi fiqh is in cities. And
Right.
I don't know, maybe there is absolute, and Shafi fiqh is usually in the countryside. So, or the other way around, I can't remember, but I think it's Hanafis in cities, Shafi in the countryside. I wonder whether it's because of the very, very different consciousness of people with regard to interpersonal relations.
Yeah, that's a great question. I hope we can take a note of this question to discuss later. It's really wondrous, Hocam. Oh, ungrateful one, where did you win the right not to offer thanks in return for the degrees of existence? How this questioning different than the previous one, and in relation to we ungrateful. Does any of you want to take? Hüsamettin, Kulin Hocam.
Kulin Hocam, please.
I don't really know. I mean, who
I
gave you
see
the right? Who
keywords.
gave you the right to be? Who gave you the right to be ungrateful?
Here I see a keyword like pure bounty. I mean, maybe this is very in essence, very, how to say, any existence, anything given is a pure bounty. There is no
I
harm
see.
in
Yes,
existence.
you're right. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, this I see, you know, very implicitly. But if you can open this, it would be very nice. I feel like this is more related to the value of any existence given to us. But the previous paragraph, you know, it's.
I think maybe you can take it forward because, I mean, you noticed it straight away. It's the notion that the things we're given are somehow deserved, you know. This is the whole problem with human rights. The whole human rights system and the whole human rights culture, cult really, is we are entitled. We think we are entitled to things, but this is a pure bounty, And do you have the original in front of you? I've got it in another window, but I've got loads of windows opened. What's the original?
Original, you mean?
The Turkish.
Maybe if somebody has it, it doesn't come to my mind at this point, actually.
I can. Hold on a second.
It's,
Is it the 14th? It's 24th letter, right?
yes, exactly.
Okay, and then
yeah, maybe not one-to-one match, because here, when it says "oh ungrateful one,"
Mahza Ni'mat, sorry.
Mahsa Nimet, you
Yes.
found it? Yeah.
Yeah. So in Farsi, we would switch around and say Ni'mat and Mahz. So it's a Ni'ma, and it's pure. In other words, it's purely from him. It's not in response to your asking for something, apart from asking to exist. It's not in response to a demand. You know, if I come to you and I say, Harun Hoja, can you give me $1,000, please, because I need it for something, and I'll pay you back later. That's not Mahza Ni'mat from you. I mean, well, it is if you're happy to give it, but you didn't give it to me without me asking you. So Allah has given us all of these things without us asking Him. So you don't have an entitlement. You know, for example, I'm entitled to a wage if I work for a company. So I can ask. You know, I don't have to thank my boss for my salary because it's mine by right. So if I'm paid, when I worked at university, I didn't go to my head of department or to the head of the university and thank them for paying me because we had a contract. But this is a pure bounty, and therefore you don't have any entitlement to it. It's given without you asking. Does that make sense?
Definitely. I was questioning when you were talking, like any existence that I'm given, any levels of existence. As you say, you know, there's a verse Ustad uses a lot, Said Nursi uses a lot, min haysu la yehtesib. So anything we have actually looks like it's min haysu la yehtesib. Because even if what I'm asking, you know, in physical life, dua, let's say, and what I see in correspondence, they are not 100% match. So the difference, I think, is min haysu la yehtesib. Because we later understand that, you know, what is given to me is much better than what I'm asking for. So in anything that I have, actually, as you say, it's obvious that they're coming without me asking exactly for it is. So it is given.
I mean, existence, we don't ask. If it was our right to exist, I think this is the thing. You know, if you're working now for a university, so you have a right to your salary. they're not giving it to you out of the kindness of their hearts without you asking for it. It's your right. So this is why he uses it, he uses the word haq here in the original. Who gave you this haq not to be thankful? In other words, who gave you the haq to expect something from me? No one. No one gave us the right to expect it, because if you expect it and you don't get it, then maybe you can complain. If you expect your salary and they don't pay you at the end of the month, then your rights have been contravened, your rights have been trampled on. But if I don't have 3 legs and I want an extra leg, or I want to be very, very rich, or I want to be a Hollywood superstar, why don't you make me a Hollywood superstar? This is ridiculous, ridiculous. You have no right to ask for those things, because whatever you've been given was given anyway out of pure bounty.
I'm going to ask a question at this point. Hüsamettin, maybe after you, if you want to say something.
No, please go on.
I was going to ask, what is the balance of this point? Like, I know that, there are some extremes. Like here we understand that we don't deserve, the things that we're questioning or we are just looking after. That's clear. However, this type of questioning also takes us to other extreme. Like, I start not questioning or not looking for betterment of anything. A false tawakkul in a way. Like, I start becoming like, oh, thank you, Allah, and that's what I deserve, and that's it, And I'm not questioning or questing for anything better in this life. So how can we distinguish? And we know Said Nursi has beautiful statements, like he says, mevcuda iktifa dun himmetliktir. Like, if you live with whatever you have, it means you're lazy and it means you're not striving for better. That's his statement. So how can we reconcile these two things? I mean, on one way, appreciating the bounties, being in a grateful state. On the other hand, missing the chance of being better. I mean, how can we distinguish, or how can we reconcile again?
I think maybe there's a category error here, possibly, because we shouldn't be lazy in we have a life to live while we're here in this earth. And we have to run for our own sustenance. We have to work. We have to do this. We have to do that. We can't improve our degree of existence. So that's beyond. That's not up for debate. We have
just the degree of existence here, the concept.
I think so. Our degree of existence is as a human being. I can't be better than I am, because that's my degree of existence. But the other things that we have, which are relational, such as I have certain talents. Well, maybe you're right. Maybe there are degrees of existence that we can maybe improve on, in a sense. If you think, for example, I have a talent for something, if I don't work at it and better it and make it as, make sure that it gets to its point of perfection, in a sense, that is, I'm modifying my degrees of existence, in a sense. But I thought it means more, you have a position on the rung of the ladder of existence, and that is a pure bounty. Because I haven't been given a lot of money, but I can work for it. So instead of saying, why didn't you give me money, then I can work for it. So I'm not sure whether that's what he means here, but I may be completely wrong. What does Hossein feel?
Kulin Hocam and Harun abi, I'm actually gonna ask to answer as a question, because in this kind of text, when we read, sometimes we may mix the not the context, or because Ustad says the sphere of the itiqad and the sphere of asbab. and they are two different things, Ustad says, and they shouldn't be mixed. For example, right now, when we are thinking about the existence, the level of existence actually, and the shukr that is required for them, each and every one of them, it looks to me a purely sphere of itiqad. But when we come to think about, but what if we stop we actually we miss the points if we don't complain, and if we don't think about other people who are better than me, and if we don't strive enough to get more and more. I think this is the sphere of this is the topic of sphere of the asbab. I mean, the distinguishing between two is sometimes is very important, and when we don't do it in its own place, the topics also may collide to each other. Because in this text, for example, when we continue reading this text, Ustad doesn't talk about that, but Ustad mentions that in other contexts. For example, like when Ustad says the importance of tawakkul, he underlines the importance of striving and working for more, and being hardworking. He's underlining that, but here he doesn't. I don't know if that makes sense, or if it's...
That makes great sense. Thank you, Samettin. I think it gave my answer, considering asbab and itiqad spheres. I mean, at this point, I think it's a wonderful explanation. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. It's clarified it. It was a category error, really. There are things we can't complain about and we can't change. And there are things that we can change, or we can ask Allah to change them, and we can work towards it. So.
Great. I have some short comments I want to read. Maybe that's just maybe. It's a general account. Like in every topic, understanding human eye, ene correctly appears to be very crucial to find balance in life, isn't it? This also, I thought of it. Ene is here, ene concept. And also Fatih mentions, for many bounties, the aspect of being potentially good or evil exists, but some, such as existence, is pure good hayr. Yes, thank you. Okay, I think we can move on in our last 15 minutes. If a man rises to an elevated position, such as climbing, we read that, sorry. So, yeah, I think that's the paragraph we just stopped. Or discontented, another adjective, discontented, greedy, thriftless, wasteful, unjustly complaining, heedless man. Know certainly that contentment is profitable, thanks, greed is loss-causing ingratitude, and frugality, fine and beneficial respect for bounties. As for wastefulness, it's ugly and harmful contempt for bounties. If you have any intelligence, accustom yourself to being content and try to be satisfied with little. If you cannot endure it, say, "O most patient one," and request patience. Be satisfied with your lot and do not complain. Understand who is complaining about whom and be silent. If you have to complain, then complain about your soul to God Almighty, for that's where the fault lies. Yeah, this paragraph actually, with the explanation of Hüsamettin, it's better understood. Otherwise, I'm going to immediately ask you, like, this looks like, we need to talk about concept of iktisat, versus being greedy, frugality versus being greed. So let's maybe get into it. Hüsamettin, do you want to reiterate on what you're saying in this paragraph, or do you see something different?
Okay. Well, I'm not really sure actually, but you are right.
I mean, being discontented and greedy.
Yes. Actually, nothing really occurred to me right now, Arnabi. Sorry.
Okay, sure.
You see, sometimes, all the times we are receiver, but when the meanings doesn't occur, we just, do nothing, you see. Sorry.
I think can I venture something? Because listening to Hüsamettin, I think he's actually clarified this so well that there is almost a natural division between the two, and I think he's hit on something really important. We're not entitled. We have a sense of entitlement, and Ustad begins by saying, "Look, you have a degree of existence. You're not a rock. You're not a flower. You're not an animal. You're a human being." And if that was mahsa nemat, mahsa nemat that you got these. We carry our entitlements through into the daire asbab. And in the daire asbab, we also think we're entitled and that we shouldn't really have to strive for things. And we become lazy. We become, look at the adjectives he uses here: discontented, greedy, thriftless, wasteful, unjustly complaining, heedless, kanaatsız, hırslı, iktisatsız, israflı. This is,
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
Haksız.
Yeah.
And all of these things are unjustly complaining because we sense that we're entitled, because of this bad comparison. We can't become more than human, but we can become, if we work hard, better than we are now. So why are we complaining? Why are we discontented? Unjustly complaining, heedless. We waste our opportunities. Why do we waste it? Why are you greedy for things that you may not be able to get, even if you work hard? If you can't, I can't be a brain surgeon and earn, hundreds of thousands of dollars, unless I work at it for 7 years. Now I'm too old to do that. So I have to be content because it's never going to happen. So we carry this entitlement over into areas where we can actually do things, to help ourselves. And this is where Ustad talks about it, as you said. But Hüsamettin helped us with this binary of daire etafat and daire asbab.
Yes, it's really helpful.
Really helpful not to make a category error there.
Yeah, exactly. Can we also say this contentment comes from the fact that whatever I'm giving, I'm not making the best use of what I'm given. So the more I diverge from what I'm given, I'm becoming wasteful. And so in any case, I will not be making use of the best of the resources that I'm given. So in any case, I will be in a state of being discontented.
Well, subhanallah, that is deep, and an example is I'm always complaining about I don't have enough time. But actually, if I study myself, when I do have time, I waste it.
Right.
So of course I don't have enough time. Why should I complain about the time? I haven't done enough work today because, okay, you spent 2 hours being distracted by a book that you shouldn't have been reading. And then you lost the 2 hours and your work is gone. So yeah, wasteful, unjustly complaining, heedless, greedy, all these things.
And there is a hadith or meaning of hadith which mentions just act upon what you know and Allah will teach you what you don't know. Usually I think we don't act upon what we know. We just search for more information without acting upon what we know.
That's so true. That's so true.
Hüsamettin, any receivables from your side?
I was actually thinking about the initial questions of the Risale, and trying to combine the points that are made here, just one thing actually arose in my mind. Because the topic here is started as humans um, questioning of the world being unjust. Apparently things happen to, because we keep seeing things separated, dying, and going in vain apparently, uh, and we are trying to make sense with how come Allah allows these things to happen. And there's a constant motion happening at the center of it. And when we start looking at things from our own selves, because we complain mostly about what we don't have, and Ustad gave the example of what the existence requires shukr, and mumkins in contingencies, they are infinite, and they don't require any reason. So for them there is no ground. They can be anything. And now when we come to this point, we keep being unjustly ungrateful to all the levels of existence that we have been given, though we have no right in any of them, but we continuously we have been given, and we are completely ungrateful. And this being ungrateful reflects in our life in different ways, like being greedy, being not frugal, and all of these things that Ustad actually makes, wasteful, and the rest of them. So it all starts with not appreciating the value of existence, or from the very low level to the highest level, and it goes to this level actually. This is what I got at the final moments.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it was amazing. Thank you, Samettin. And can we say the start of this first sign out of 5, right? It's talking about what Said Nursi mentions learned in 40 years of his life. It's one of the things, if you remember this piece, he mentions the word nazar, niyet, manaya, harfi, manaya, ismi, and also in line with these concepts, he talks about malikiyet. So I think this first sign is about malikiyet. So he tries to stun our vision that we are not owning anything. You're not owner of anything that you're given. As Colin Hocam mentioned, it's pure given to us. So I think he's stunning our views of malikiyet first, because otherwise we will not be able to proceed with other signs. If I have a perception or nazar perspective of owning or deserving something, then it is waste of time to talk about the second or the coming signs. I felt like this is the reason why he starts with this first sign meaning before moving to other ones, if you agree.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to the Iblis issue, because Iblis in paradise tried to make us discontented with paradise. So it started there. We had paradise, but he said, look, you can have immortality on your own terms. We already had immortality, but we just weren't aware. But he tried to make us feel that we were lacking in something. And I think this is in us all now, from then. This sense of entitlement, really.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, this entitlement wording. Yeah, maybe it's our journey to to understand that I'm not entitled for anything, to be anything, you know, in the first place. But it's a huge struggle, it seems like. I think I'm going to stop here. If you have last things to say, Hüsamettin Kolin Hocam, let's close after you wrap up.
I don't have anything to say.
Me too, but actually I'm very thankful for Kolin Hocam and Harun abi for today. I really got lots of inspiration from today's test. Thank you so much.
I got it from yours as well a lot, and from always from Harun.
Yeah, thank you, Kolin Hocam, thank you, Hüsamettin, thank you all participants and brothers, sisters writing in the chat. And maybe lastly, Mehmet Su just wrote, all problems start with the false ownership. That's why we say Maliki Yevmiddin after Hamd. Maybe this is our closing prayers. Maliki Yevmiddin, Velhamdulillahi Rabbil Alemin. Thanks all for joining. See you next week. Hopefully we will move from second sign.
Thank you, Harun. Assalamu alaikum.